Hello, my name is Wade Skinner. I'm the pastor of Beckville Methodist Church, and I'd like to thank you for listening to this sermon. It is our hope and prayer that you are transformed into an equipped disciple of Jesus Christ because of watching and listening to this sermon. God bless you.
Now, Father's Day is just as wonderful as Mother's Day, but it's layered with complexity for many of you because we live in a broken world with sinful fathers and with depraved children. There's some of you who have lost fathers, some recently, and so today is particularly difficult as you resurrect memories of your dad. They're both good and bad. There's some of you who have had wonderful fathers, and thinking of your dad makes you smile. And yet there's some of you who have had terrible fathers, and so the thought of honoring them on a day like today makes you perhaps angry. For most of us, and I'm probably in this bunch, memories of dad are a mixed bag of both good and bad moments. Didn't like those spankings. There are fathers listening today who have lost children and for whom today is particularly difficult. There are folks in this audience who are alienated from their fathers, and even though your father is still living, you have no relationship with him. There are fathers in this audience who are alienated from your children. And even though your children are perfectly healthy, for one reason or another, you have a fractured relationship with them. For everyone just named, this sermon is for you. The story that we have before us today is about a father who loves his children with reckless abandonment. It has been called the parable of the prodigal son for many years, but the parable I propose has been misnamed. The story of the youngest son spending his inheritance recklessly is only one part of the parable. The father has not one, but two sons who show up in this parable, and his love for both of them is equally prodigal. Now, that word prodigal is not one that we use today, and so a definition is helpful. Merriam-Webster helps me because it defines prodigal in three ways. Prodigal is that which is characterized by profuse or wasteful expenditure, lavish. So when you hear the word prodigal, I want you to think lavish. Recklessly spendthrift, yielding abundantly, luxuriant is the second definition. So lavish, luxuriant. Now, unfortunately, the term prodigal has gotten a bad rap because it's used to refer to a disobedient son. But as you can see, the term is not necessarily bad. And I'm going to be using it today to refer to the love that this father exhibits towards his two sons. And so if you see the actions of this father for his two sons as extravagant, as reckless, and even bewilderingly excessive, I'll get it out in a minute, you are seeing the story correctly. The main point that I have before you today is this. The father's love for his two sons in this parable is prodigal because his love is not based on their obedience or disobedience, but is rooted rather in their relationship to him as sons. I'm going to talk to you today about the problem of disobedience. I'm going to talk to you, secondly, about the impossibility of obedience. And finally, I'm going to talk to you about the prodigality of the father's love. Let's talk about the problem of disobedience. The father's love for his sons in this story is not based on their disobedience, because when his youngest son demands his inheritance before his father's death and then wastes that inheritance recklessly in a foreign land, the father celebrates his son's return with a lavish party. A lavish party. Now, there are two types of children that are reflected in this parable. those with disobedient child syndrome, and those with obedient child syndrome. Disobedient child syndrome, often connected with the youngest child in the birth order. Some of you are youngest children, y'all know what I'm talking about. Though not always, it's not always the case, is when a child seeks to know you love him or her by disobeying, because the child wants to see if there's anything he or she can do that will make you stop loving or accepting him or her. This is the child who pushes the boundaries. All right. The one who wants to see how far he or she can go before your love ends. They want to stretch you. You tell them to stop at the gate, and they go to the road. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Look at this parable. Look at how the youngest son in this story stretches the boundaries. Number one, he rudely and disrespectfully demands his inheritance from his father. Y'all, I know this doesn't quite resonate with us in our modern American culture, where we don't live in an honor-shame culture, but in a honor-shame culture like the one out of which this story was written and reflected, it would be a great sin to ever dishonor your father by going in the way that he goes to his father and demanding, "Give me my inheritance," before your father dies. That would be a huge slap in the face. Okay? It would be so dishonoring, disrespectful. So I know, again, in our modern culture, we don't quite see how bad this is, but trust me, in this culture, this is about one of the worst things that a child can do to a parent. Secondly, he almost immediately abandons the family, taking his inheritance into, quote, a far country. Now again, I know this doesn't quite resonate with us in our modern mindset, but trust me when I say that that is a terrible thing. A son, especially, doesn't abandon the mishpacha, which is the Hebrew clan. You don't abandon your clan. You stick with them. You stay with them. You support your parents. And so, when this son says, "Give me my inheritance," and immediately gets out of Dodge, he's a bad. We're being told this is a bad boy. And he is doing the most dishonorable thing that a child could ever do. And so he doesn't just go into a nearby city. Oh no, he goes into a far country. He gets as far away from mom and dad as possible. You know why? Because he wants to really swing. Oh yeah. And he doesn't want any accountability. Right? You see, when you want to really swing, you don't want anybody to know what you're doing, where do you go? You go to New York City. There's millions of people there, right? Nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows who your background is, right? You don't move to Beckville, Texas. No, you go where you can get lost in the crowd. Nobody knows you. You go to Houston. You go to Dallas, right? There's millions of people. And you can do what you want. And nobody is going to check you. Well, that's what this boy does. And what are we told? Thirdly, he squanders a little bit, some of it, half of it, 3/4 of it, all. Every bit of it, every penny that his dad had given to him from his inheritance, he squandered it all in, quote, reckless living. This is a bad boy. All right? This is a bad boy. He's doing bad things. Now, something happens. We're told in this story. An unforeseen circumstance pops up. A severe famine. Something that this child cannot anticipate. And it forces him into a position of need because all of his resources are gone. Remember, he's wasted it all. He has nothing else to fall back on. The bad thing about going into a place where you don't have any familial connections is you don't have any familial connections. You don't have anybody to fall back on when things go wrong. And so what does he do? He's in a foreign land. He has no family or friends to help him. And he's forced to go in with a pig farmer. All right? And he goes in with the pig farmer, and he's so hungry and so desperate that, quote, he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate. And y'all know what the pods are, right? That's the empty shells where the seeds come out of. They're useless. They're waste. They're the stuff that people don't eat. It's the stuff that you only give to pigs that they'll devour, right? Kind of like you eat a watermelon or something, and you throw the rind out there to the pigs and let them munch on it. The son's reckless lifestyle in a foreign land has left him with no friends, and, quote, no one gave him anything. What causes this son to come to himself is remembering the generosity of his father with his servants. I love this. It's not remembering the harshness of dad. It's not remembering all the spankings. It's remembering the generosity of his dad with his servants. And so as he's out there feeding the pigs and tending to them and so hungry that he would like to jump in there with the pigs and eat those pods, he starts thinking about how things used to be at Dad's house. He remembers how generous Dad is and how loving Dad is, that even his servants were treated like sons. That really is what's being described here. The workers, the field workers, they are treated with honor and respect and dignity. So he comes up with a plan to go back to his father. And the son's plan for re-entering his father's household, what does it involve? Confess it all. Confess his sin. Denounce his birthright. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. And then to beg to be treated as a hired servant. Now that's an extreme position. But remember, this boy is in an extreme place. He'll do anything to get back into Dad's graces. But what we see here is that the father's love for his son is prodigal because Dad has been doing something every single day. What's Dad been doing? He's been waiting for his boy. And every day he goes out to the end of the drive. He's doing this. Where's my boy? Where is he? Every day he's looking for him. He's waiting expectantly and hopefully. And we're told that he saw him, quote, a long way off. Now, to see somebody a long way off, you got to really be looking. You got to really be wanting to see him. Don't you? He saw him a long way off, which means that he was really straining to see in the distance, looking for his boy. He's been waiting and watching for him to come home ever since he's left. We're told, secondly, that this father, quote, felt compassion for him. And finally, we're told that he runs to meet his son. He does not wait for his son to reach him. Look, again, I know our modern culture, this it doesn't come across perhaps as shocking as it does in this culture. But for a patriarch, a man in this culture, to run, unheard of. Men in this culture, patriarchs especially, heads of the mishpacha, the clan, they don't run. That would be undignified. And their clothes wouldn't allow it either. And so they would literally have to hike up their clothes to run. And it would be undignified and dishonoring to a father to do that. This shows us he doesn't care. He doesn't care what people think. I'm running to my boy. My boy's home. He's finally here. I've been waiting for him all this time. And I don't care what anybody says. I'm going for him. And so he takes off running down the road. He doesn't wait for him to get there. And what does he do? To give his son a high five? Stand up. No, this is the prodigal father. No. He runs and he grabs him. A bear hug. And he kisses him. He doesn't stand there awkwardly and try to shake his hand. No. Look, the details of this interaction are incredibly relevant. As I said, ancient Near Eastern patriarchs don't run. And they're not really known for being affectionate either. And so the story of this father behaving like this is very strange. It would be very strange for the ears of these people to hear this. Fifth, before the son can finish his prepared speech, remember he's got his prepared speech? Okay, when I see Dad, I'm going to tell him, listen, you've done this, I've done this, right? You know you're in trouble, you've done something, you've got this prepared speech, and you're going to lay all the things out, okay? He can't even get to the speech. The father demands, don't say anything. Give me the best robe, a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet. In other words, we're going to treat, the father is showing the son, I'm going to treat you like a son. I'm not going to treat you like a servant. You're my boy. Sixth, he prepares a lavish party for his son, the fattened calf. The best meat. Let me translate that. Now, this is a culture where you didn't eat a lot of meat. So in the ancient Near Eastern culture, they didn't eat a lot of meat. It was a delicacy. It was rare. And so you reserved meat, especially the fattened calf, for very special occasions, right? A lavish party, a wedding, perhaps, a funeral, something of that nature. It was reserved for the most honored of guests or a rare celebration. Again, it would be unheard of for a dad who had been dishonored by his disobedient, disrespectful, sinful, depraved son to put a robe on him, a ring on his finger, shoes on his feet, throw a lavish party, kill the fattened calf. It would be unheard of for a father to do that. Look, here's the point. This story, friends, is not realistic. It's not. No father, especially one in the ancient Near East, would have treated a disobedient prodigal child this way. This story is about God's love for us. Hear it. We're supposed to see ourselves in this story as the undeserving, wasteful, and disobedient child who was given everything and has wasted it all on sinful living. If you're wondering today, what could I do to make my Father in heaven stop loving me? How far could I go? Just know that He is always watching for your return. His love is so prodigal that in spite of your greatest efforts to run from Him, He will always pour out His most lavish gifts upon you if you are His child. He'll never let you go. Second, that's the problem of disobedience. Now I want to talk to you about the impossibility of obedience. You see, the Father's love for His sons is not based on their disobedience, but it's also not based on their obedience. Because when the eldest son becomes angry with his father for not throwing him a party, the father reminds him that everything that is his belongs to his son. Now, the elder son is a faithful and obedient son. Look at where the elder son is when he hears the noise from this celebration. Quote, Now his older son was in the field, and as he came and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing. This is the good son. The good son. This is the obedient son. This is the son who obeyed all the rules, who checked all the boxes. He went to college. He got the good job. He fell into the family business. He did all the things that would make a child respectful and honorable to a parent. And right even now, as they're throwing this lavish party for this disobedient son, where is the elder son? He's out working. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. Also look at what he says to his father, and the father does not disagree. But he answered his father, Look, these many years I've served you, and I never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. The father does not disagree with him, meaning it's true. It's true that this elder son has all these years served his father in the family business. But there's something amiss here, and I don't want you to miss it. This is so important. Because not only are all of us younger, disobedient children, guess what? There's all a little bit of this obedient child syndrome in all of us too. You see, because underneath the eldest son's obedience is a false belief about his father's love. My father loves me and gives me good things because I never disobey him and because I faithfully serve him. That's what he believes. He believes in his heart of hearts that Dad loves me because I'm checking all the boxes. I'm doing all the things. He believes that his father's love and approval of him is based upon his obedience and faithful service to him. This is why he is so angry and confused about why the father would throw a party for his youngest son. But I'll never get over the father's response to this elder boy syndrome. What does he say? Son, how dare you talk to me like that? Son, you are always with me. And all that is mine is yours. Son, it's always been yours. It's always been yours. Don't you know that? Nothing you could do, nothing you could ever not do Whatever, make it not all yours. You can't undo this. You can't stop being my boy. You can't stop being my son. Do you hear that today? Do you really hear that? Maybe you've never embraced the prodigality of the Father's love for you. You see, the Father's love for his sons is based on their relationship with him as their Father, because his prodigality towards them cannot be merited. And this is the final point. At bottom, this story is fiction. It's fiction. It's a story that Jesus made up to tell, to speak truth into his disciples' ears. Now, it contains truth, but the characters and the narratives are all made up. It's a story designed by Jesus to teach his listeners about the gospel. So if the Father's actions in prodigal love seem outrageous and reckless, and if you cannot think of any father or mother that you know who would behave in this manner toward his children, you've got it right. You've understood this parable precisely the way it was meant to be understood. The father in this story is supposed to represent God the Father and his prodigal love toward his children. You see, Paul tells us that nothing can separate us from the love of God. No amount of disobedience can do it. God is the Father who waits for his disobedient child to return to him every day. He's the Father who runs to us and clothes us and puts a ring on our finger and celebrates our return with a lavish party. He embraces us. He kisses us. You see, it's God's love and grace, unmerited favor, that causes us to change. We're so thankful and grateful for what he has done that we cannot imagine displeasing him. I see some people who run to Christianity from time to time, and it's like shallow roots. And the reason is because they're scared of not going to hell, afraid of that possibility of punishment, and so they feel like that if they sort of go to church or something like that, they'll give them a get out of hell free card. That won't really change you. You see, your heart is too hard for that. What will really melt, the only thing that will melt a hard heart is to understand the grace of God. To understand how good God really is. How far out he's gone. How prodigal and reckless and lavish and luxuriant is his love towards you. God is also the Father who sees beneath the misguided desires of our obedience and reminds us that everything he has is ours, not on the basis of our obedience and faithful service to him, but on the basis of the perfectly obedient life Jesus lived and the death he endured for our sake on the cross. You can't, if you're a child of the King, you can't mess it up. That's what you need to hear today. You can't mess it up, and you can't earn more favor. God's love is not based on what you do or you don't do. It's based on the finished work of the Lord Jesus Christ. That's good news. Fathers, if you want to model the love of God and the gospel of Jesus Christ for your children, hear me. The best way you can do it is to love them in their obedience and love them in their disobedience. But you can't do it conservatively. I know there's a lot lot of conservatives in this room. Guess what? When it comes to loving your children, you have to do it recklessly. If you want to model yourself after the Father, because that's what God did for you. He who knew no sin became sin for us. That's reckless love. God abandoned his throne as the king of the universe to become a poor and misunderstood Jewish man who would be executed on a cross as a criminal. That's prodigal love. The best gift you can give your child is to love them as God the Father loves us. It won't make sense to the world because that kind of love never has and it never will. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Thank you so much for watching this sermon and listening to it. If your life has been transformed because of watching it, we'd love to hear about it. Please send us an email at beckvillegmc@gmail.com. And let us know how we can support and encourage your relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ. God bless you.